community, so that's why I went here. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. And for you, David?
I think for me, I kind of fell into it, to be honest, right? I was going to school, I went to the University of Texas at Austin. My plan was always to be a lawyer, so that's kind of the route I had in mind. I got my MBA there, I was in business school with the thought process of I want to do corporate law, right? So I want to do M&A work, mergers and acquisitions, and go into corporate law. But when I was there, I made a ton of relationships, built a huge network. Some of my best friends played football at the university, so on accident, I could say that I felt was still one of my best friends at the time, Jamal Charles, was going to the draft at the same time I was going to law school. He's the one that actually introduced me to his agency at Athletes First, and they offered me an internship that summer before I started law school. So, the plan is not always, something that, like you said, it's not always a 5-year plan. Sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time, and when the door opens up for you, be prepared to walk through it, right? So that was important. And as far as, what gave me the confidence, I think for me, luckily I've always been super confident. I think my parents both raised me to be super confident. After seeing kind of what they went through from living in a village to coming across to the United States and starting with absolutely nothing and being able to put us in a position to be successful, who am I to not think I can do something, right? So for me, watching what they did and what they were able to accomplish kind of gave me the confidence. I felt like, hey, if they did this, there's no reason I can't take it to the next step. So for me, I think that's where I got my confidence from my parents.
I love that. You guys both had people to look up to and mentorship, so that's amazing. For those interested in careers like yours, what is your industry really like, and what are some of the biggest challenges and lessons you've encountered along the way?
Okay, what is my industry really like? So event planning is not always like cake tasting and balloon decorating. It comes with tons of the back end, lots of budgeting, lots of logistical nightmares that you have to, take down some fires for. I also am in the nonprofit and also the business educator field, so I'm doing a lot of work educating small businesses and teaching them more about Yelp and how they can market themselves. And so community managers like myself, we are all across the country, so I run all the things for Dallas, which means doing meet the owner posts. We share and amplify voices for people who don't have that microphone for themselves. We're able to use the big name like Yelp to share more about what they do in their community. And as at a time American actually was born in Sudan, so I don't even know if I can actually say it. But I think that it showed me so much about small-owned businesses and how equity truly is not what we think it is in America. So it helped kind of guide that light of someone who doesn't necessarily know what resources are out there, and it's all free. Everything that I do is free, which I think is probably what keeps me at my job, including the flexibility to be able to spend time with my children and my husband, to be able to consider that a success. So my industry is kind of all over the place. Event planning is constantly a flexible role. But I'm so thankful to be able to kind of put on multiple different hats, but at the same time supporting the community. So it's an honor.
I'm sorry, can you forget the question?
You're good.
Okay, so as far as the industry, I think there's a misconception sometimes of what being a sports agent is. What you kind of see from a public image is, going to games, negotiating contracts, which of course is super important in what I do, but I think that probably takes, the negotiation to this probably takes 5% of my time at what I do. I'll say the other, 95% of the time, the vast majority of that is going to be recruiting new clients, right? So, that's a grind. There's a lot of other good agents in the business as well that are qualified to do good work. So constantly having to pitch yourself a business to families, and when you're doing it to people as opposed to businesses, I think the problem you run into is that everybody's different, everybody's unique. So one sales pitch that might work for one family is totally different than what might need to get other families, right? You might go in there and have a great game plan and say, hey, this has worked the last 2 times I did it. And then you walk into a meeting, you don't know the person's background, if you haven't done your homework and so forth, and they kind of don't take to what you're presenting, right? So I think the biggest part of my business, kind of the lifeline, like I always say, is being able to recruit, being able to be around different types of people, different backgrounds, and being able to earn their trust pretty quickly, right? You don't get a lot of time in those meetings. to kind of gain their attention and gain their trust. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception when it comes to what we do on a day-to-day. Some of the challenges I face, I'd say my second year in the business, my first year in the business, I was blessed to sign a first round pick, Earl Thomas, who went on to play for the Seahawks first rounder. But then, I walked in there and I got a little confident. I said, hey, I signed the first rounder my first year in. I was feeling good, and the next year I struck out. You know what I mean? So for me, I remember sitting in that hotel room when I got the call. The last client I was recruited, this was back in 2011, I believe. And they were like, yeah, we decided to go in a different direction. You don't have the experience that these other guys have, right? And I sat there and I'm like, wow, am I gonna be able to make it? But again, going back to kind of what my parents instilled in me and just kind of the resilience of everything people, period, right? So having that resilience and being able to know that, okay, this is kind of bump in the road. I gotta work hard, right? Not making excuses for why I wasn't gonna work, but figuring out what I need to do to make it work. So that's one of the biggest challenges I faced.
Thank you guys. I feel like being vulnerable like that is a lot, so thank you. Also, I feel like the setbacks are part of the journey, and sometimes people don't realize that or they don't want to encounter that. So it's big to see that you guys also went through challenges.
Like they say, man, you don't really see the setbacks on Instagram, right? On Facebook or TikTok, whatever. You're really looking at everybody's highlight film. So I always tell guys, don't get frustrated or upset when you kind of comparing yourself to others. They say that comparison is the thief of joy because you're always comparing yourself to what other people do when in fact, they're not posting those long nights. They're not posting when you flew into a city for a meeting and nobody shows up. Right? Nobody's posting those, right? So I always know when you see what everybody's posting is what they want you to see. It's kind of their highlight reel, not their everyday.
Thank you. And then my last question is, when young Eritreans look at your journey, what do you hope they take away from it?
I think the biggest thing is I hope they don't try to fit it into the mold of what other people told them what success is, especially because you can curate and create your own success. We see it every day now with technology and all the different industries that are starting to get built. You can kind of create that on your own, and don't be afraid to kind of push that boundary. Also, one other thing I would say is raise your hand before you think you're ready. I think especially for the young women in this room, we're told time and time again that we can't do something. I say take the risk and just say yeah. Like maybe you've never dabbled in, I don't know, like writing, editing. Just try it and see if your brain kind of opens up a new world that you didn't know you had. So that's what I hope for young young people now. Just constantly remember that you are here for a reason and you can't push that boundary.
You don't have to repeat the question.
You're good. When young Eritreans look at your journey, what do you hope they take away from it?
To be honest, that anything is possible, right? I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I was 5'5", 110 pounds soaking wet. 103 pounds soaking wet my freshman year in high school. So, never played football a day of my life, never carried football, never was in the sport. So if you'd have told me growing up, hey, you're going to be, a pretty decent NFL agent in the future, I probably would never believe you, right? So again, kind of to follow up on what she said, don't let anybody put you in a box. For me, it's important what I do. Kind of try to share my story just because at the end of the day, representation is important. And for me, I never looked at what sports agent was, but at the time there wasn't a lot of, African American sports agents, let alone the Asian American sports agents, right? So, just be aware that you can do whatever you kind of set your mind to, as long as you put the work in, right? Nobody's gonna do it for you, and there's gonna be setbacks, there's gonna be trials and tribulations, that they say, right? But if you want to do it, if somebody else has done it, there's no reason you can't do it, right? So I think that's what I would say.
And I would love to add to that. I never took one business class or marketing. And I'm here working for one of the biggest world corporations, so clearly there's proof in the fact that you can kind of learn on the job, but also it's more about who you are and your connections with people versus what it says on your resume. Of course, that's important, but just like Dowie was saying, you didn't even care about football growing up, and look at where you ended up. So just remember that when you think you can't do something or you see an application online, just just remember these things that we're sharing with you.
Well, thank you guys so much. Let's give a round of applause. We are going to go to audience question and answer, but I did want to ask you guys just some fun, quick fire questions really quick. So my first one is, in Jeddah are hamburgers?
Duh.
I feel pressure here.
It's okay.
I'm gonna go in Jeddah because I'm here.
The last one will good. Next, you kind of touched up on it, Joey, but what did you guys want to be when you grew up?
I thought I was a good baseball player, you know. I was a pretty decent baseball player growing up. At least I thought so, right? But so that's kind of that was my goal. I quickly figured out that wasn't going to work for me, so I had to kind of pivot. And it ended up working out.
Are your kids in baseball?
They play baseball initially, but it's a slow sport. You know, you gotta really love baseball. You know, so they're in football now. They box. You know, they wrestle a little bit. So you know, they're out there doing a few things and kind of figuring out, you know, what they love.
That's cool. Summer.
My family back home in Gaza, my dad has a pharmacy, so I always thought I was going to end up in the medical field, specifically a pediatrician. And then my first biology course, my freshman year, I realized I hated biology, which you need a lot of that to become a doctor. But it's funny, I never even shared that with my daughter, who was 4 years old, almost 5, but she's already saying that she wants to be a pediatrician. I don't know.
That's beautiful. And then my last question was going to be, what's the favorite part of your job?
Y'all, I have a really fun job. I'm sorry. I get to do things like post behind the scenes looks at like Cirque du Soleil. I get to do things for Toys for Tots, so like foundations during Christmas time. I get to take my husband with me to go try new foods when a new business is opened up. So I think probably a mix of all of those, but probably tasting new foods is probably this.
I think for me, it's, you know, I encounter a lot of these guys that I work with, they're really young, right? So I'm working with kids as young as 16, 17, a little younger nowadays with NIL, but just watching kind of them grow and go through their journey from being, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to, you know, they become adults, they have children, they end up, opening business, whatever it is they're doing throughout their life. So really watching that transition from getting with somebody and starting working with them with their child, whether they're doing childish things, to watch them grow, become a man, become a father, become a leader. I think just that whole progression of watching guys go through their transition and being able to help and say, hey, you know, I kind of played a small role in where they're at now. And that's probably, as I look back, that's my favorite part.
Thank you guys so much. I will say that you guys are both inspirations. I think that this is a big deal for the Eritrean community. They look up to people like you guys. You're in spaces that their parents aren't probably asking them to go into or to reach out to. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. Can we get to Aya round of applause?
So we are going to open up for question and answer if there's any audience questions. Okay, so there's a question right here in the front.
Firstly, Sanjay, thank you for coming so much, and Adiyam, thank you for moderating the conversation. I'll go ahead and briefly introduce myself. My name is Shidan. I'm here with my folks from California. I did my undergrad at Berkeley, and now we're to somebody that I've been following for a really long time. This is business and finance in general. Question for you though, I'm just curious to hear, well firstly, it also was interesting to hear that you were planning to do M&A work. I'm doing M&A work currently, and I think I'm at the phase of my life where I'm trying to find something I'm passionate about. And so I was just curious to learn more about how your role has sort of evolved over time, you would say, from the time, from 2011 or when you had started to current, with like NIL, evolution to that, and the proliferation of, institutional money going into sports, having to increasingly like be competitive with, larger agencies that might be more scaled, that might be more diversified, etc. It would just be helpful for, I guess, my learning and anybody else in the room who's curious too.
For sure. Well, first of all, you do M&A work, so y'all are successful already. All right. Okay, congratulations. But I think what I would say is how it's changed is when I first got into business, there was no real place if you were a startup agent, right? It was very, very difficult. There was a barrier to entry because you find out who the athletes were at the same time that all the other major agents did, right? You couldn't talk to players until they were 3 years removed out of high school. And at that point, everybody knew who the guys were, right? So you were competing against guys that had, a ton of NFL clients that have done, hundreds of $1 millions in contracts and so forth. I think now actually the best time for, I guess, non-experienced agents to get into the business, right? There's no real barrier to entry. You can get involved in NIL without being registered in a lot of states, and the registration is not difficult. So now you're able to recruit kids when they're 16, 17, 18 before anybody else is really recruiting them, right? And be able to create those relationships, establish those relationships, and hopefully hold on to these clients long term because you were there before a lot of these major sports, agencies. That's the first part. As far as how it's changed, like I said, when I first got into it, you couldn't talk to a student athlete until they were 3 years removed out of high school. So now you were dealing with, I don't want to say adults, but young adults, right? Guys that were 21, 22 years old, maybe 20 years old out of high school. Nowadays, you're dealing with kids so young, you have to recruit them as NIL athletes when they're in high school. That it used to be that the young adults were making the decisions. Now you see more and more that the parents are making the decision because the students are so young when you start talking to them. So I think that's probably the biggest change that's happened from when I started to where I'm at, to where we're at now as far as the industry is concerned.
Any other questions? I think I see another one in the front in the olive green shirt.
Hello. My name is Joseph. First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for coming on here. I know you're very busy lives and schedules, so it takes a lot of time for you guys to come out here. But thank you for coming and sharing your perspective. So my question is specifically for Kelly. I did some years in corporate sales, and now I'm going off to start my own company. So we just launched our company for myself. And you mentioned striking out in your second year, right? Having a great first year and the second year not so great. What are some of those pivots that you made to come back in that third year and be successful?
I think I just had to kind of recalibrate how I went about recruiting, right? Initially, my first client was somebody that I had a previous relationship with, right? So that was more of a soft intro. It was a lot easier to get down and done. And I think sometimes when you get into a new business or a new field or whatever it is you're doing that's new and it comes easy to you, you kind of get a little, you kind of get lazy a little bit. So I think I just kind of had to realize that, hey, I obviously don't have the experience that everybody else has, right? I'm super young. I'm black, right? There's not a ton of black successful agents at the time, African American agents. So for me, I just had to recalibrate and kind of figure out, okay, what am I going to pitch that maybe these other agencies can't pitch, right? Yeah, you can come here and pitch that you got $500 million in contracts, you represent 10 Pro Bowlers, but what can I pitch that you can beat that? So for me, it was recalibrate and say, okay, what I can pitch now is time, right, and importance. Nobody's gonna have as much time for you that I have, right? I don't have any other clients really. I only got one, right? So I'm gonna be there from day one to day whatever it may be, right? I got enough time to spend with you here as much as I can. With the other part is I was able to pitch that, hey, your success is gonna be a direct impact on how successful I am. If you go somewhere else, you're successful, cool. If you're not, then move on to the next client. For me, if you're not successful, then I'm not going to be successful. So I think that pitch that kind of resonated that, hey, our success is usually, is tied in. So he's going to be all that will be no matter what happens.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
I see two more questions in the front. So there's someone in the white shirt.
Hello. So my name is Mateos. I'm from Austin, Texas. And then this is just a general question. So I'm an incoming freshman at UT Austin. And I've really been wondering about how you guys stay with your community, especially with Eritreans, not being as common as other diverse groups or ethnicities. So this is it's a general question. How were you guys able to find that community, to be able to stay together and keep those Eritrean values?
That's a very good question. Did everybody hear the question? He asked, he's at UT Austin right now, and he's asking how we keep our community intact within the Eritrean community, since the minorities is probably most likely not Eritreans. That's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. I think you can start off small, especially somebody who's in events all the time. I think you can have a recurring coffee at a local coffee shop every 2 weeks. You're always there. You had your laptop out, whatever. You posted on Facebook on a public page, hey, local Eritreans, I will be here. every single other Tuesday from 4 to 6. If you want to come in and say hello, I want to start a community. And you'd be shocked at how many people feel lonely right now. We are at a loneliness epidemic. So I think it always takes one person to try. And I think you're already there, so you can do it. I encourage that. Great question.
Do we have another question? I think I saw someone else. Okay, there's someone right there.
There's mic right on.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Hopku. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. This is a bit of a lighthearted question. I think it can actually work for both of you to answer. So obviously, if it's family friendly, you can share it. What's the craziest thing that a GM or an owner has said to you, David, or your client in a contract negotiation? And same way with you, what's the craziest thing you've heard, maybe during when you're booking a venue or trying to get an event organized that you've heard in one of those meetings?
Man, you gonna get me in trouble. Jerry Jones already don't like me here now, so I gotta be careful. I won't say specifics. What I will say is what you realize when you're working with billionaires and people that are, have reached the success levels that a lot of these owners have reached. They don't really like hearing no, right? That's not something that's really in their vocabulary as far as what people say to them. So I think when you're trying to get stuff accomplished, you gotta realize that, right? At the end of the day, you are asking these people to write a check. Now, you do have the leverage that you have, but being able to talk around that and making them feel comfortable and being able to kind of appease their egos is important. But I think that billionaires, speak to people the way you think billionaires speak to them, right? And the people around them aren't used to telling them no, so sometimes, I've had to be the person to tell them no, and they don't really like that too much.
Any more questions? There's someone right here with a question in the black tank top. That's my fiance.
The ladies don't want questions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Quentin. I am my own fiance. Mark, I just want to say thank you guys for being here. It means a lot to Audie and to myself. She was really excited. This. If you haven't listened to the Audie OG podcast, please check it out. Really fun. So my question is actually for you. I grew up in a household full of very strong women that were encouraged to be successful. I think there's a misconception out there of, you're either a really great mom or you're really great in the corporate world. So my question for you is, how do you balance being an amazing mother, also having a really successful driven career, just for maybe some of the women out there that are struggling to find the balance in between both, because you can definitely have both.
Wow. Whole thing is going to make me cry. The question was, how do you kind of define the difference of being a successful corporate woman and mom? I think the main thing is finding the right job for you. It took me a minute to get here, but my job truly is people first and a culture team. We have a culture team that's specific to meeting you where you are. And because I get to work in a job where it's flexible, I create my own hours. I think it's a privilege to be able to say that. I can pick up if I don't like a client, I don't need to work with you. If I have a business owner who doesn't respect Black people, I don't have to work with them. So I have the flexibility to be able to choose who I'm going to help amplify, and I think that's 100% the only way. That being said, there are incredible, successful doctors and surgeons and all of that, and it takes a village. It really does take a village, and I think we're all forgetting that kind of piece in life is that in order to have a village, you must be a villager. So constantly putting myself out there, helping someone who's sick, helping someone who is going through something, I think it creates a domino effect to be remembered when that time comes for me. Maternity leave was incredible because I have my village there for me. So thank you so much for that question. That was great.
Do you have any more questions? I have one right here in the
Yes,
front.
I'm going to take the liberty of giving it to a lady now. Bring it back.
Thank you.
Okay. First, thanks for being here. I've enjoyed this talk so much. Omar, thanks for answering that question as a mom as well. I guess my question is about, because you're both parents, you both talked about how your parents instilled resilience and hard work and kindness, all these things that almost come naturally to immigrant parents in the way that they raised us. So for us, our parents here, we have the luxury of raising kids without that backstory, having to work as hard as our parents did to bring us to where we are. How do you instill that resilience in your kids? What does that look like? And also, what does it look like to preserve that culture with your own kids?
I love both of you guys answer that question.
I'll go. I'll start. Okay, really deep questions, guys. I am very blessed to have an American husband, so we are a multicultural family. I think that my children already see that because they see their mom, they see a Black woman as a leader in their life, so I think that already is just one instilled in them. Watching my parents, I still till today, I think I've learned you really don't know your parents until you become a parent or an adult. You can leave it as an adult. You just see them as these people who are supposed to take care of you growing up, and as soon as you kind of flip that page and realize, like, oh my goodness, how did you travel from Asmara to Sudan in the desert for 3 weeks? How did you do it? That's the story that I always tell. I still can't believe we did that. And every time I ask my parents, they're just like, well, we had to. And so I think just having that instilled in you from the very beginning that they just had to do it has kind of always been my heartbeat. You just have to keep moving forward. I mean, there's been so many trials and tribulations of life growing up here, seeing what Black men have gone through in this country. It's truly eye-opening to understand, like, we are really having to do this on our own. And I think just growing up with Eritrean parents who instilled that in us. Shout out to my mom over there. Hi, Mom. But I just wanted to just remember to keep that open dialogue with your family and learn more of their stories and share it. I think that will take you far in your career as well.
We're used to it.
Okay, do you have any other questions? Okay, I see someone in the middle with a hat.
Hello? My name is Federico Waldi. I'm from the future of Eritrea. And my question to Abi is, what can we do to connect to connect them with potential investors? And if you allow me, I would like to, can you hear me? Okay. I would like to read a little statement that I will still again ask what to get the parts, okay?
Oh boy. Let's read a statement.
Okay, my wife and I have started a foundation in Louisiana to help individuals and families affected by addiction. Our son struggled with addiction for nearly 20 years, but today he has been cleared for the last 5 years. And now he serves as the foundation executive director during his battle. We have no support, during his battle, we have no support or guidance, and we don't want another family to feel as lost and alone as we did. While we have seen drug use becoming more common in the Christian community, our mission is to help anyone affected by addiction. We also know many in our community suffer in silence because of stigma, our hope is that by having members of the Eritrean community lead this effort, more people will feel safe asking for help through education, prevention, resources, and support. We want to save lives and give families hope. If you could spare just a few minutes of your time, I would like the opportunity to share more about our mission and see if this is something you would be interested in supporting. Together, we can make a real difference and help save Eritrean lives. Thank you. And again, my question is, what can you do to connect with the potential investors as far as tax credit and investment in this venture?
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to repeat that one more time.
Just the question
part. Just the question part.
Okay. The question is, we are looking for investors. And since we are in the upscale income bracket of football players, I know that in the tax credit that some of them can be that we can get. And also if there are any potential investors in this business, because to be honest with you, we're looking at least between $15 to $20 million. Because this is going to be one of the biggest rehab centers that's going to house about 300 patients.
I mean, I'll get your number when we leave here. We'll have the conversation. That's a much longer conversation. But congratulations to your son.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Okay, I have a question in the back, black shirt. Black shirt, you can stand up for us. Thank you.
It's gonna be like, don't answer that. That's okay if you don't.
Dawit Telmar. Thank you both for coming. My name is Raphael. Adiam, thank you also for hosting them and having us all here together. It's a great pleasure and a great opportunity for so many of us here in the diaspora to hear from you guys' stories. I think you guys are both a great inspiration, and it's actually a great privilege for us here to be able to hear that. But I think Eritreans are always thinking about back home as well, their families, their communities, their country overall. So I was just kind of curious too, perhaps if you could share, if you do have any, some of your aspirations or goals or dreams that you may have, how you could perhaps leverage your talents, skills, network, in order to be able to maybe bring some of that also back to Eritrea itself.
Great question. Dreams and aspirations. It's funny because I grew up in Dallas, Texas. We have event venues that we always are constantly looking to find for all types of events that we have. And we always joke and say, how have we not started our own event center? And I think that eventually, that's probably something that I would want to do at the end of it all. And a lot of those proceeds I plan to have, aspirationally, to go to proceeds going back, especially to children back in Eritrea. So thank you for that question.
The aspiration question, you're already nonprofit. No, I'm not.
Okay, we have another question. Anyone? Okay, this person in the hat. Yeah.
I know that has one after that.
My name is Tesla. I go to Georgia State studying sports management. I have a lighthearted question. What's the day in the life of school of like amazing? Like, what do you do? You use like a computer and stuff?
Day in life for you?
And I was wondering if you get to negotiate as a contract to just you know.
Alexander Isaac.
I heard the first part of the question. What do I do every day, right? I think it's, there's no day in the life of, to be honest, every day is different, right? One day you might have, you might be busy from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. Some days it's a little less busy. Some days you're working on contracts. Most days you're working on figuring out who you're going to recruit, how you're going to go about that, your travel schedule. Me and my wife were just talking, I think in July, I was home a total of 6 days in July. So just from a travel standpoint, a lot of it is just logistics, to be honest with you. So I don't think there's really like every, this is kind of how it works 9 to 5. It's not that type of job. I think that's part of why I enjoy it, to be honest with you, right? Because every day is a new adventure. Every day is something different. And, it kind of keeps you on your toes, to be honest with you. And then I think the last part of the question was about,
it was nothing serious, but I was wondering, as an agent, do you ever plan on opening your own brand instead of working for like athletes or do you ever plan on opening your own agency?
I mean, I own a significant part of athletes first, so as of now, there's no reason to do it, but you never know in the future. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have 2 questions on this side. I have one in the back in the black shirt, glasses. I think his name is Adel.
Alright, so like a lot of networking. How do you build a genuine relationship or networking? I always have a hard time doing that.
Could you repeat the second part?
Yeah, so I do a lot of I do a lot of networking in my job. How do you build genuine relationships while networking? I have a hard time doing that sometimes.
Genuine relationship with networking. I'll answer first. Now we can go after. Like I said, your personality is who makes a difference, not what's on your resume. So first of all, I think it's really important to remember the names of the people that you meet. It actually goes really far to say, hey, Debbie, good to see you again. And hey, how's your mom? I heard she was going through chemo. Those types of things really make a difference, especially for somebody who meets hundreds of people constantly. And I think that's what I always get like that shocked face for. They're like, how did you remember that? Taking their story, listening to who they are, and really taking that back and checking in and following up with them. I think that helps.
I think sometimes, for everybody, I think we all kind of have this fault because we like to talk more than we listen, right? I think even when networking, a lot of times you're doing a lot of talking. Sometimes it's because you're nervous. Other times it's what people do, right? You want to tell about yourself, what you want, what your goals are, your aspirations. I think, if we listen twice as much as we talk, kind of like what you just said, right? And really figure out what's important to this other person, what makes them tick, what they enjoy doing, and you're able to follow up on those things, right? I think that's super important. So I think you kind of touched on it, is making that person feel important, making that person feel heard. I think if you're very conscientious when you're doing that, as opposed to being the one always talking, I think that goes a long way.
Thank you. I was going to take one more question right here.
Thank you for coming today. Mine is a bit different from all these young stars. As a mom, as seeing you guys grow in our community, especially. Somehow. I see you as a young girl now, successful young woman. I'm so proud of you. My question to you, Samhar and David, how can you help us here in the community in the Dallas area to get, I don't know how to put that question, but we have a lot of youth. As you can see, the Eritrean population is really growing here in Dallas, Texas. The challenges that we go through is our youth are sort of scattered all over, and we need to have them connect with each other so they can support each other. They're lost. I can tell you that they're lost. We really need to help them. As all know that we don't have a community center, so that's our biggest challenge. There is no way we can gather them, have them come together as a community, as a group, as youth. Is there anything you can do? I mean, as a mom, I'm just asking, as part of our community here in the Dallas area, we really struggle. We need support. I don't know how, somehow, Darren, help us. I'm just speaking. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, the youth do, like I said, we have a loneliness epidemic, and Mateos, is that your name? Kind of like what I answered for him is to have something consistent. That's what we're missing. We had UIA growing up. We had soccer every Sunday. The moms were out in 100-degree heat making wood, and they came, and you had to be on time or you had to run laps. And we need something consistent where everyone can meet, even if it's outdoors, if it's at a park. We need someone to say, hey, no matter what, we will be here for 2 hours on this day. That cadence is what causes accountability and consistency. They need to see each other's faces. We're all so spread out. So starting there, it doesn't have to be community center, it can be outside. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
You know, I think what happens a lot of times with us, you know, when you're kind of focused on your career and what you have going is you kind of have tunnel vision, right? And you're so focused on, okay, I got to put my head down, I got to work, I got to make sure I put myself in a position to be successful. That a lot of times you're right, you know, you're not really looking at what's going on to your left or your right, you got blinders on. So I think coming back to this has been, you know, eye-opening for myself, I'm sure for a lot of people that haven't been back to a festival in a while. But the community center idea, I think it's a great idea. I don't know that we had one growing up. I think, as you stated, you know, I'm a little older than you, not by much. But you know, we did have soccer. We had it every Saturday. That everybody's together every Saturday morning, whether it was soccer, football, basketball. But there was always that community, and I'm not sure what it looks like now. I've been in Austin since 2000 or so when I graduated. So you know, I've been in Austin for a long time now, but. Yeah, I think just getting more involved for us that have kind of gone away and, you know, kind of started careers, started families, you know, sometimes you kind of need that reminder to kind of, hey, look back, figure out what's going on back home and see what you can do to help.
Thank you guys so much. So that'll conclude this segment. Thank you guys for coming. It's been an honor to speak with you both. Thank you. And we do have something to present you guys with.
Thank you, our speakers and moderators. Great job. And thanks to everyone who attended this session. This unforgiving Dallas heat. We appreciate you coming on time and waiting patiently. And thanks for your participation from the questions. So now I'm going to ask Ahmed Khalata of the Embassy of Eritrea, Organizational Affairs, and this is Monica Viewers. Charity Affairs of the Embassy of Eritrea to present our token of appreciation from the festival to our presenters. Please come to the stage.
Before we get off stage, one of my little cousins, Danu, has a booth here selling t-shirts. You guys are looking for really cool t-shirts, right to the left, Danu, phenomenal t-shirts. I think they're going to mail them to us.
Oh yeah. What should I say?
I don't say that.
Take the bag while you're leaving? Yeah. I'll tell Steven to
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you. Everybody here and hope to see you more.
What's your name? Oh, nice. Vivid. What's Marco? Wait, one second. Wait, this one second. I'm gonna good? Go like that. That's good. Yes. I didn't have